This is one verse from this Valli itself. We have heard the very famous mantra Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschit Siddhaye. There are so many people. Although this knowledge is free, this is available everywhere. Only few people are interested in it. Only those few, amongst those few, only few people get it. Only those amongst who get it will be able to anchor and live with that. The very same, I think, the source for that particular mantra is this one, 1.2.7, which is covered in this particular Adhyaya, this particular Valli. Shravana yapi bahurbiyo nalabhyaha shrunvantopi bahavo yanam vidyuhu ascharyo vakta kushalo yasya labdha ascharyo gnata kushalanusishtaha. The first section in this whole Valli deals with the glorification of Guru and the Shishya. So again, that particular verse said, it's very rare that people get into a Shravana component. Shravana is a systematic learning of the Shastras through a competent Acharya. And then internalizing this knowledge and clarifying the doubts is Maranam. There are only a few people who go through Shravana. Those who go through Shravana, only a few of them will get the essence of it, and only a few of them will further move on to Nidhyasana. And the biggest of the blessing is finding that Guru to explain to you and finding that connect between both of them, and that is covered. The whole of this Adhyaya deals with, these are the subsections. These work slides are wonderful from the Chinmayananda Mission, Guru Bhaktananda's reflection, wonderful text. Those of you have seen this already. So, Preyas and Shreyas, the two margas that are kind of talked about, and then the relationship between the Guru and the Shishya. Very important, Om Upasana, some of them are already covered by Dr. Adhyaya today. And then some of the verses which are taken into the Gita, the Sankhya Yoga part, as well as in the final section, you will have the essential qualifications required. You will notice that now onwards the real teachings begin. Real teachings of Lord Yamadharma begins from the second Adhyaya. Lot of the things are repeated. It's repeated because the subject matter is so subtle. It's repeated because it's anirvachaniyam and we are trying to understand something which cannot be completely explained through words or meanings. Therefore, it's repeated. So, therefore, these verses, everywhere, wherever there is a verse representing the nature of Atma, nature of Brahman, you can take it as Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana verses, and we can start to internalize. Now, in the end of the first Valli, we saw that Nachiketas asked for only one bone. Although he was given 3 bones, he had asked for 2 of them. Finally, he says, I want only the third one. Third one is about, I want to know the Atma Vidya. Which means he demonstrated that he is a Tivra Mumukshu. So we have seen this before, the types of Mumukshus. There is Mumukshu, somebody who doesn't have moksha in their wish list at all. Second one is Madhyama Mumukshu or Manda Mumukshu. In the list of wishes that we have in this world, we have moksha as one of the components. Then we have Madhyama Mumukshu, where the moksha gets the top of that list. It is the top of my priority. And then the Tivra Mumukshu, where moksha is the only goal. You see the difficulty now. When we are studying Bhagavad Gita, we can relate with Arjuna. Because he is going through suffering. Perhaps he is in the Madhyama Mumukshu, where he is still deciding, okay, I want and I don't want. He has got raga dveshas. Whereas young boy Nachiketas is already deciding and I want only moksha. So very difficult for us to relate because we are so much bonded with our own body, mind and our own attachments within the day-to-day life. So what is required is a Tivra Mumukshu. This example is already quoted several times before. What is a Tivra Mumukshu? I think Shiv Kumar sir has talked about it once. The Guru once tries to teach Tivra Mumukshu. When he asks what is Tivra Mumukshu, he takes his disciple to the river, and all of a sudden, without the knowledge of this disciple, Guru drowns him, keeping his hand on his neck, to a point where the Shishya starts to gasp. When he takes out and he is gasping for the air, that level of gasping for the air is Tivra Mumukshu. If somebody is utterly hungry, not had food for about a week, he wants only food, nothing else, and you give him gold, you give him this, you give him something else, car, you keep all of them, he will choose only food. And that is Tivra Mumukshu. So Nachiketas has demonstrated all of that, and Yama is very much appreciative of that. We've seen this in the Kathopanishad, Parikshaloka and Karmachitan verse, where a wise person, after verifying everything in his day-to-day life, he realizes that the material world is not going to give eternal peace and happiness, and then he turns towards, he develops Nirvedamaya, Vairagyam towards that, and he goes to the Guru. Who is that Guru? One who is qualified, Shrotriya Brahmanista, and then he learns this. So we will see an extension of all of this in this particular Valli. I'll ask Ashwini to explain the verses 1 and 2, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Thank you. Now, Lord Yama starts off with the Valli 2. We've already seen this is a chapter on the chores. So here the verse 1 and 2 talks about the prayers and shreyas. What is this prayers and shreyas? They are nothing but the ways, the paths. Okay? I have just put a distinct difference between the two paths. The prayers is a path of karma, path of action, whereas shreyas is a path of knowledge. Knowledge being the Jnana Yoga being in the center, Bhakti Yoga and the Karma Yoga adds up to it. Now prayers is something which is desired, which is pleasurable, whereas shreyas is something which is desirable and which is preferable. Now that one which leads to the moksha marga. Now prayers, it always, it only centered on a ritualistic way or religious practices. The main difference here is the avidya, the ignorance. Ignorance in case of the prayers marga, and then the knowledge in case of the shreya marga. Now avidya always binds us to samsara. So what do? We keep doing good karmas and we avoid doing the bad karmas. Whereas shreyas binds us to Vedanta, and which also gives us a path for the knowledge. Now this is a free will to choose. Okay, we have a free will to choose between the Preya Marga or Shreya Marga. Now who is the one who selects this pleasurable? Somebody who is Aduradarshi, somebody who is deluded, somebody who is fooled. Now this I have put a marshmallow test. I'm pretty sure all of you must have known this. This is actually performed by Walter Mischel. He's a famous psychologist. What happens here is a room full of children, 4 years and above. What he does is, he asks the random questions and he rewards them with a marshmallow. And then, once he gives the marshmallow, he doesn't stop there. He says, do you want one more? For your children, I think even we as adults, we also want one more. Everyone wants one more. But the condition is, if you want to have one more, you should wait for some time. The psychologist has to go out, bring the marshmallow and give it to you. Now what is this? The person who is seeing the marshmallow in front of you, the children, for them that's the reality. They just pop it in. But then few children who want one more, they are waiting. They're getting they're distracting themselves with so many other activities. And they're waiting for that second marshmallow very eagerly. Now the point I want to make here is, all wait is not bad. Something we are waiting for can also be good. Here, this of course it has enhanced. Now the activity does not end here. These children are analyzed 14 years later. Children who popped in the marshmallow just then, they came out to be impulsive, they got distracted very easily. But then the children who withstood that temptation for some time, they were very good in their success. They are in the career. They were very good with their assignments and etc. So you are all, you're looking for something good. You're waiting for that good, and we are all here waiting for that truth or reality. Now, with this background, we will look into the verse number 2, which is Shreyascha Preyascha Manushyametah Tau Samparitya Vivinakta Dhiraha Shreyo hi dhiro vi preyaso vrinite Preyo mando yoga kshema vrinite. Now here, the point Lord Yama is making the Shreyas and Preyas, the both parts always present to the human beings. It is always there. Every part of our life will be presented with the two ways. Now, for example, this morning we all had to get up for the meditation. We could have chosen Preya Marga and then lie down in the bed. But we've all chosen the Shreya Marga. We got up, we meditated, and here we are. There is a third marga, of course, you lay in the bed and keep thinking whether to get up or not. That is a tamasic marga. Let us not go there. But then we are choosing Shreya over the prayers. Now there are two things which is responsible for this. One, as Devakar already mentioned, it is the Sangha, the company which matters. One person is waking up and I don't want to stay in the bed. I will also do it. The company matters. The second thing, because here everyone is choosing Shreyas over Preyas because they have the discriminative powers. They have the discern to, think, to consider everything and then go for the spiritual seeking than the worldly pleasures. Now we don't force anybody at all. We go by example. So spiritual seekers, they consider it well. And of course, Nachiketa did not wanted praise. He always wanted the Shreya Margaha. So it is like this, eat to live and not live to eat. So the root word here is Viveka, Vivinakti. The one person who is, this is the metaphors which is used. The ant, just like the ant which can separate the sand and the sugar, the swan which can separate the milk and the water, the Viveki, the person who can discern or discriminate amidst this chaos of samsara, the birth, life, death, rebirth, he always is looking out there for the truth, the reality. So that extraction of reality or the moksha is considered by the spiritual seeker. Now what happens to the worldly person? He does not consider anything at all. So he is just there for the yoga and shema. Yoga here is union. He is acquiring more and more. And shema. Shema is protection or maintenance of that yoga, that acquisition. But should we not go for this acquisition and protection? Can we not do it? Because we are all grihasthas here. We also want some amount of, wealth or whatever to live our life. In the 9th chapter, 22nd verse, Lord Krishna gives a beautiful answer to this. The one who is constantly devoted to the God realization, Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham, I will take care of you. You need not worry, you be the God realization, I will take care of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashwini. So, the introduction of two important words, Shreyaha and Preyaha. So, Preyaha is the pleasurable one, Shreyaha is the desirable one. Of course, pleasurable ones are very, very tempting for us. Preyaha doesn't mean it's a bad thing at all. In fact, Preyaha means in the Dharma, Artha, Kama, we can almost equate it to Dharma. Dharma in the context of Purusharthas is the Punya Karmas only, acquiring Punya Karma. It's not a bad thing at all. But then that also will have to go. We know that Punya Karmas are also binding. And then the next verse, the verse 4, this question is asked, can somebody take both Shreya and Preya together? Why can't I do that? It can't be done because they both are diagonally opposite. So one will have to let go. It's like a cucumber which will have to snap. If you can't say that I will get ripened and also get attached to this, creeper. So with this, we move on to the next section. So what happens to those who only get stuck at Preya? So I invite Srimati Panega, please. You will see that this mantra is also there in the Kathopanishad.
Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. As Dr. Divakar just mentioned, Lord Yama comes down very heavily on those who pursue only prayers, completely alienating themselves from the Shreyas Marga. This is a very strong verse where Lord Yama uses very, very strong words to criticize those who pursue only prayers or only the materialistic path. We will chant the verse. अविद्यामन्तरे वर्तमानः स्वयं धीराः पण्डितमन्यमानाः दन्द्रम्यमाणाः पर्यन्ति मूढाः अन्धेनैव नीयमाना यथान्धाः. Looking at the translation, it says, steeped in ignorance, avidya, and considering themselves to be wise, dhiraha, and learned, panditaha, the deluded ones, modaha, move about, wandering all over, pariyanti, like the blind, andhaha, led by the blind. Yeah. So all of us know that there are only three basic things that we're working and living for. All of our desires come under these three things of peace, security, and happiness. So those now, as Dr. Ashwin mentioned, there are two ways of getting it. One is through prayers, where we have this delusion that we are getting these three things, and then there is shreyas, where we actually get it. So these avivekis, they are steeped in the world and they cannot recognize its mithyatva. We know that every worldly object that comes in, there is a struggle to get it, struggle to maintain it, and a certain feeling of loss that we feel when it goes away from us. So what do these avivekis do? They start depending on external objects. That can mean objects meaning like your say a particular type of food only that you want to eat, a particular type of lifestyle only that you want to lead, or it can mean people, a certain set of people who make you feel happy and you want to be only in their company, or it can be objects or status or wealth and all these things. So these avivekis continue to exist in their delusion because they cannot see beyond the world. They don't know what exists apart from what meets their senses. So they are afraid of dropping their dependence on these worldly things which seem to give them happiness. Swami Paramatmananda calls them crutches. They are like happiness crutches for them. So if I don't have it, I crave for it. And with this craving, what Sir was talking about luxuries and necessities in the morning. So gradually what we consider as a luxury becomes our necessity. And it just goes on and on. There's this nice cartoon by Calvin and Hobbes which illustrates this point. So Calvin's telling Hobbes that I have a bowl of chocolate frosted sugar bombs. The second bowl is always the best. So the second comment is very interesting. It says the pleasure of my first bowl is diminished by the anticipation of future bowls. And then he goes on to say that by the end of my third bowl, I usually feel sick. And so Hobbes is advising everybody should stop with it. I tried cola, but the bubbles went down my nose. So the point is, these avivekis are trying different methods to get there. And ironically, even in economics, there is the famous law of diminishing marginal utility, which says that with every product we consume, the happiness or satisfaction or utility, as they call it, derived from that product diminishes with more use of it. But it is these economists that promote the materialistic type of living, and every ad that we see is selling that to us. Every ad that we see is selling happiness to us. So Lord Yama is coming down on such people. And it's quite amazing that even so many thousands of years ago, even then there were materialistic people who propagated that kind of life. So their intellectual arrogance does not allow them to surrender to the scriptures, because the scriptures are asking them to give up their worldly pursuit. And because they are so deluded, they are not able to discern the mithyatva of worldly objects. And nor are they willing to come to the scriptures at all. And they think they are intelligent, swayam dhiraha and panditaha, and they succeed in sort of brainwashing the entire society. And they wander from dependence to dependence, because nothing can give them the tripti, or the satisfaction or purnatvam that is required. And Yama calls them the blind, and the blind who are led again by the blind. So why is it, I just conclude, why is it necessary to come to the scriptures? Because what we are ultimately seeking, that the eternal, the purnatvam, the ananda, that can be found only in the scriptures and not outside in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anaga. Yeah, Swayam Dhiraha Panditaha. So those who are self-proclaimed scholars who think that the material wealth, material life itself will lead them to happiness. Not just the material ones, those who get stuck at karma yoga alone. It's like one blind leading to the other blind. Swami Paramarthanandaji says religious life is extremely important. That is the first step. That is the first aid for any kind of problems. But that in itself is not a cure. One will have to transcend religiosity to go to spiritual life. That itself is the cure for samsara. That is the essence of this particular verse, very well explained. And in the next verse, again, Yama goes on to say, what are the characteristics? Why is that those people who get stuck at prayer or going to fall down? That is because the unintelligent people. So Viveka, the word was used. Vik is the root word, root dhatu. That is a dhatu. Vik means to discern. Vaidenti comes from that. Viveka is to discern from eternal and the ephemeral. So those who get stuck at worldly, the ephemeral, they will not learn the scriptures. They will be very careless about their own life. They get carried away and get deluded. And they get stuck at only artha and kama. There is absolutely no time for introspection. You ask them anytime, there is no time. That is a common answer we get these days for anything. So Lord Yama says they will just perish, not only in this life, in their lives coming ahead. There is a beautiful mantra, Ahara Nidra by Maitunascha, Samani Netan Pashubirnaranam, Buddhirhi Tesham Adhiko Vishesha, Buddhaya Vihinaha Pashubir Samana. So if there is no buddhi, if there is no viveka to discern what is ephemeral and eternal, we are as good as animals. Even animals can't discern that. We get stuck at only artha and kama. And in the next verse, Lord Yama says this knowledge of Shreya cannot be attained only by the reasoning. You need Guru and Shastra, without which it is impossible, as this knowledge is Apaurishaya and it is Paroksha Jnana. So, and what is, therefore, whenever there is a good student who is available, the most happiest person is the Guru. Guru will get really so happy. Now here, Lord Yama is so excited. So happy to see a Tibra Mukshu in Nachiketas who is so young. Nobody has asked him that. He has seen so many people. He has gone and taught them at the end of their life. So Swamiji says that he is also teaching. Swami Paramarthanandaji is teaching for more than 40 years. You must have seen all kinds. There are always going to be sincere students. He says that what is a Shravanam for a student is a Nididhyasanam for a teacher. It is the same topic that keeps going on, but it's the same thing that helps the Guru also. So we need, good students. That's the Swamiji's message, and we all should be there. In the verse 10, again, Lord Yama's admiration keeps going higher and higher. He says, Nachiketas, you are better than me because Lord Yama went through Kramamukti. You see, he is there in Devaloka. But Nachiketas is in Bhuloka and he is asking for moksha from there. So he says, you are doing the right thing, asking for Jivan Mukti, but he himself, Yama went through Kramamukti. Okay. So again he starts to glorify the Vairagyam of Nachiketas. Nachiketas was given the highest sense pleasure. What is the highest sense pleasure for the human beings? It is Hiranyagarbha, which is the entire cosmos itself. And that was beautifully explained in one of the verses also. In fact, in Taittiriya Upanishad it comes in Valli, where what is the highest pleasure that a man can experience. So every wealth, age doesn't progress, beautiful, everything, Pakka, even that is also like one drop in the ocean of Brahmananda, is what Shankaracharya says. In spite of giving all of that, Nachiketas rejects that outrightly. He says, I don't want this. I want moksha. So, and then in the 12th verse, some of the attributes of the Atma is, in a way, it's a last ditch that Yama is saying. Do you really want it? Because this is gochara, this can't be, experienced. That's what Yama is saying. And Nachiketas gets fed up. He says, I'm asking for Atma Vidya and this man is only glorifying me. He is now in the verse 14 reminds Yama that there is my third bone. I will invite Dr. Adhyaya to kindly explain this.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So Nachiketas has had enough of Shreyas and Preyas, and he's proved to everyone that, to Yama basically, that he has 3 of the 4 Ds. So this verse is actually a very important verse because it marks the introduction of Brahma Vidya in this Upanishad. So chanting this verse, Anyatra dharma, anyatra adharma, anyatra asmat krita krita, anyatra bhuyacha bhavyacha, yattat pashyasi tatvada. So, if we remember, yesterday we discussed, the third boon Nachiketas already asked in the verse 20 of the first chapter. He said, there is no doubt about a man when he is dead. Some say he exists, others say that he does not. This I would like to know, taught by you. So this is a very pertinent, very perennial question that all of us have. What happens after death? Is there something beyond this body is what he's asking. So we see that Yama tests and tempts Nachiketas with so many things through the previous verses. He wants to ensure that he is an adhikari. He passes the test, the qualifications required to receive Brahmagyan. So Nachiketa is also very clever. He's fed up of all the, the kind of Yama's trying to tempt him with so many things. He's trying to avoid giving him the actual answer. So he reworks the question. He puts it in a very precise Vedantic way. So that way he demonstrates that he's actually a Tivra Mumukshu. That's the fourth D of the 4 Ds that we heard yesterday. And Swami Paramathananda ji says, though this is just a 9-year-old boy, it is a very important and a significant mantra because in the first 3 lines itself he's defined what is Atma. So looking at the word meaning, the next line. He says, Vada Tat, tell me, Tat Pashyasi, which you see as Anyatra Dharma, different from Dharma, Anyatra Adharma, different from Adharma. Asmat Krita Krita, which is different from the cause and effect, and which is different from Bhutat Cha Bhavyat Cha, from the past and the future. So, what is the reality between Dharma and Adharma? We know the law of karma, the cause and effect. We set into motion certain causes by our own actions, and this results in certain effects. Causes have consequences and actions have effects. So, if our actions are dharmic, the results are good, and we generate punya and experience sukha. If it is adharmic, the results are bad, we generate papa and experience dukkha. So, life and death, sorrow and happiness, good and evil are different manifestations of the same thing. When we have a problem, say a pain in the body, the same nerve which carries the good and bad, it's the same nerve which carries the good and bad sensations. If we get a nice massage, we say, it's so lovely. But if somebody is poking us with a pin, we just wince and experience the pain. But when the nerve is paralyzed, there is no sensation. So all this is just one single thing which is responsible for the different sensations. So with our dharmic actions and the adharmic actions, we generate a bundle of sukha, dukkha, karma, phala. Both are important because, we need to get rid of both. And because this, the dukkha, karma, phala generates a cycle of Punarapi Janana, Punarapi Marana. So, Nachiketa, what is he asking in this verse? Is there something beyond this? Is this all that is? Is there something beyond? Just leading a moral life, generating good karma, becoming bound by samsara and unable to escape? But Vedanta says this is not the reality. There is anyatra dharma, anyatra adharma. He wants to know about this jnana from Yama. He knows that Yama is the person who can give him this jnana to set him free. As always, there is a parallel verse in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 66, which says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. So Krishna says, give up dharma and grihasthashrama. Experience, follow dharma and grihasthashrama and give it up. Give up both by attaining me. I just want to recite this beautiful poem by Swami Vivekananda. It's called The Song of a Sannyasin. And one verse particularly relates to this verse in the Upanishad. Who sows must reap, they say, and cause must bring the sure effect. Good, good. Good here is dharma. Good, the second good is punya. Bad, bad. Adharma and papa. None can escape the law. But who wears a form? The form here is our body. Must wear a chain. That's the chain of prarabdha karma. Too true. But far beyond, both name and form is Atman, ever free. Know thou art that, sannyasin bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. So freedom from bad karma comes from good karma, and freedom from bad and good karma comes from Atma Jnana. So Anyatra Asmat Krita Krita, he says, I'm not interested in the universe, mind, creator, creation, karya karna. I want to know what is beyond the cause. Similarly, Anyatra Bruyat Chabhavyacha, the cause and effect exist in time. I want to know what is there in the Kala Tita, beyond past, present, and future. So you know that reality, Yama. Tell me that. He asks of Yama. And in the following verses, we get to know the teaching from Yama. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sandhya. It was a very nice explanation of this verse. Now, Lord Yama is cornered. There is nowhere to go for him, so he has to teach, and he is already convinced with the Mokshatvam. And I invite Dr. Rupa Suresh to kindly explain this beautiful set of verses. Om Upasana comes in here, and the real teaching again begins from here.
Hari Om, Shri Guru Namaha. Well, with the previous verse, Nachiketas is still waiting to hear from Lord Yama. But before he reveals the true answers and the teaching from verse 18, in verses 15, 16 and 17, Lord Yama is going to teach us a lot about Omkara and then start the real answers to Nachiketas' question. So we need to wait still, but before that, it's a beautiful teaching that he tells us about the significance of Om and its effects. So the verses 15, 16 and 17 are going to reveal this. Let's chant. I'm going to skip 15 because Dr. Anupama just went through it. We'll start with 16. Etat evaksharam brahma एतत् एवाक्षरं ब्रह्मा एतत् एवाक्षरं परम् एतत् एवाक्षरं परम् एतत् एवाक्षरं ज्ञात्वा एतत् एवाक्षरं ज्ञात्वा यो यदिच्छति तस्य तत् यो यदिच्छति तस्य तत् Verse 17. Etat alambanam shreshtam Etat alambanam shreshtam Etat alambanam param. Etat alambanam param. Etat alambanam jnatva. Etat alambanam jnatva. Brahmaloke mahiyate. Brahmaloke mahiyate. Yamaha Vachaha. In these three verses, Lord Yama prescribes Omkara Upasana. He says he will reveal the Atma through the smallest word, that is Om, which is a single syllable. Even to say Brahma, you need two letters, but here with one letter Om, you can have the entire essence of the Vedas and the Upanishads. Omkara has multiple uses and benefits. It is used both in the Veda Purva and the Veda Anta. Now, depending on the student's understanding or the level of the student's knowledge in the study of the Vedas, we have three types of students: the Manda Adhikari, the Madhyama Adhikari, and the Uttama Adhikari. Let us first consider the Manda Adhikari. For Manda Adhikari, Om can be used for the purposes of japa. Here, for a Grihastha, it can't be used as a single nama, as we heard from Dr. Hekteser yesterday. It has to be always attached to a God's name, as using it alone can cause extreme detachment or Tira Vairagya. We need to go back home tomorrow evening. So, as a Grihastha, we can't be using Om alone. We have to always use it along with the God's name. But for a sannyasi who is in the Vanaprastha ashram, it can be used as a single nama. Next slide. Whereas in the case of a Madhyama Adhikari, Omkara can be used for upasana or meditation. Here we use it for Saguna Ishvara Dhyana. And by doing Saguna Ishvara Dhyana, one can invoke Virat Ishvara or Hiranyagarbha Ishvara or Antaryami Ishvara. Whereas in the case of an Uttama Adhikari, Omkara has to be used for Vichara or enquiry of the Omkara itself. When we sound the word Om, it is usually divided into three parts: the A, U, and the Ma. So the Akara, the Ukara, and the Makara. All three areas of the word Om, into which we need to do the detailed inquiry. And this inquiry into the Omkara is called Nirguna Brahma Jnanam. So in verse 16, Lord Yama says Omkara can represent both Param and Aparam Brahma. By saying Param Brahma, we mean that Ishvara, who is the Karana Brahma, is the cause of the entire universe. And by saying Aparam Brahma, we mean the entire macroscopic universe, which is consisting of both the Hiranyagarbha, which is the total mind, and the Virat, which is the Karyam Brahma, that is the effect that we are seeing. By invoking either of these, one can get the desired goal in the life. Next slide. By praying to Param Brahma, one can achieve Nirguna Brahma Vichara and get the promised benefit, which is the Nirguna Brahma Jnana, and get moksha, that is here and now. That is called Sadhyo Mukti, which we should all of us who are sitting here in this class aim for, which is given in the end of the slide in the right side. Secondly, by praying to Param Brahma, Aparam Brahma, one can achieve Saguna Brahma Upasana. Here we have two possibilities. The first one is we pray for material benefits, progress towards Shreyas, and reach Brahmaloka. The second one is we do Nishkama Upasana, then go to Brahmaloka. There is a stopover where Brahmaji himself will teach us about Nirguna Brahma Jnanam and then get moksha. And this is called Kramamukti. Next slide. In the last verse, before we actually get the teachings in the next verse, Lord Yama says and summarizes that Omkara is the greatest and most unique symbol because it serves many purposes. One is it serves both for japa and it serves as a mantra. Secondly, you can use it both for saguna upasana and nirguna upasana or vichara. And last but not the least, it can be used both for worship and for meditation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for another nice explanation. At this very place, we did the Omkara retreat. So, Mandukya Upanishad a few months ago, I think that was last year. So, in Mandukya, and again explained in Mandukya Karika so beautifully, Omkara is brought about wonderfully. Like ma'am said, Omkara has Amatra, Umatra, and Mahatra, and there is also Amatra, the silence one also. Ma and the silence. Ma represents the Saguna form, the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti respectively, and that which transcends all through. That which is the Adhishthanam, the Turiya, is represented by the silence part. And then the famous mantra of Nantah Pragnam, there the Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikya Vichara is brought out beautifully. And this particular verse now leads to the next speaker, Srimati Vani Bhaskar, who will start giving us the explanations of the real Atma Vidya. Dr. Anupama already brought out this verse earlier because this is copy pasted into the second chapter, Adhyaya.
So coming to the next verse, na jayate mriyate va vipaschit nayan kutastit bhabuva kaschit ajo nitya shashvato yumbrani na hanyate hanyamane shakti. So the meaning of this verse is the Atman, the omniscient one, is not born nor does he die. It did not spring from anything and nothing sprang from it. It is birthless, deathless, decayless, and growthless. That is, it is unborn, eternal, everlasting, and ancient. And it is not afflicted when the body is afflicted. This is one of the most important verses. And we see a similar verse in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, 20th verse, with a little bit of modifications. The main teaching of the Upanishad starts from this verse, the teaching, the self-enquiry, which is the heart of Vedanta, which is the crux of the Vedanta. So Lord Emma talks about the path of Sadhyomukti, that is a path of liberation, in this Janma, right now, right here. So this verse describes Atma Swarupa or Atma Akshana. So here the first line says, Na jayate mriyate va vipaschit. So, na jayate means it is not born, mriyate va, it doesn't die. So the Atman is not born with the birth of the body and it does not die with the death of the body. So here Swamiji describes the nature of the Atma with 5 principles. That is, consciousness is not a part or property of the body. Consciousness is an independent entity which enlivens the body. It is not dependent on the body to exist, but the body requires consciousness to exist. Consciousness is not bound by the limitation of the body. Consciousness does not die when the body perishes. And the surviving consciousness is not recognized because of the absence of the medium and not because it is not there. So as long as the body is there, the consciousness is present in the manifest form. It is called as Avyakta Chaitanyam. And when the body is dead, the consciousness is not in the detectable form and it is the Avyakta Chaitanyam. Coming to the next sentence, Nayan Kutaschit Bhabuva Kashit. Bhabuva Kashit. So here Atma is not caused by anything. So it does not arise from anything. So it is not a product. So it is not the Karyam. And nothing arises from Atma. So it is not the Karanam also. So Atma is neither the Karanam nor the Karyam. So it is neither the effect nor the cause. Ajo Nitya Shashvatayam Purana. So consciousness is Ajaha, that is, it is birthless. Nityaha is deathless, it is eternal. Shashvatam is everlasting, it is decayeless. Purana is ancient and it is growthless. So we see consciousness is not subject to modification. But whereas a body has 6 modifications, Asti, Jayate, Vardate, Viparinamite, Apakshiyati and Nashyati. So Asti is coming into existence, Jayate is it's born, Vardate it grows, Viparinamite is disease, Apakshiyati is decay, Vinishati is death. The next sentence is Nahanyati Hanyamane Sharire. So the Atma, the consciousness, is not afflicted even when the body is afflicted. So we see clearly the Atma Swarupa. So here I would like to give an example. So here we see the space is all pervading. But when a potter makes the pot, so there's immediately the pot space. This pot space is not born, it's not created. It is one with the outer space. But it seems to have been created. It seems to have manifested. So, but when the pot, supposes this breaks, what happens to the space inside? Nothing happens. The space is as it is. Is that right? So it is, the space is something like consciousness. So this consciousness is always there and body is like a pot. The body comes into existence. Nothing happens to consciousness. It is as it is. But when the pot maker made this pot, did he make the pot and put the space inside? No. The space was already, it was there. So the pot maker molded the pot in the space. Is that right? So the same way, the body when it comes into existence, it is in Atma with Atma in it. So this Atman is a residing deity in all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your explanation using the props as well. Now, the nature of the Atma, which was so very well explained by Vani ma'am. There are a few more. There are a couple more slides and a couple more mantras which explains the very set nature of this Atma. One of them, the one is the Akarta and a Bhokta. One who is not responsible for the actions and one who does not reap the results of that action. And the other one is what is the condition for owning up? So the quiet mind with vairagya or the dispassion will have the grace of the body, mind to own up to one's higher nature. And this verse, the verse number 21, Asino Duram Braja. So here there are 2 subtle aspects of Atma which is being explained. One is the original consciousness, which is called the Samanya Chaitanya, and the other one is the reflected consciousness, which is the Vishesha Chaitanya. Now here we will try to understand this by the example of the picture that is there. Now in the picture what we can see is a patch of the sunlight which is being reflected onto the wall. Okay, now if we see that patch, we can call that as Vishesha Surya Prakasha. Okay, whereas the sunlight, the original sunlight which is getting reflected onto the wall can be called as Swayam Surya Prakasha. Here, Vishesha Surya Prakasha will be reflected consciousness. Swayam Surya Prakasha will be Samanya Chaitanya or original consciousness. Now, what is that which is reflecting? It is the mirror. Now here, when we are understanding the original consciousness and reflecting consciousness, the analogous to the mirror can be our subtle body. The subtle body is reflecting the original consciousness onto the body and the mind. Body for the external functioning and the mind for the inner thoughts. Now, if we remove the mirror, it will obviously, there will not be any Vishesha Prakasha. Similarly, if we but the original sunlight is still there. Similarly, if we remove the subtle body, the original conscious is not going anywhere, it is still there. So, now why is it important? Why should we know this? What is the benefit? It's for the simple reason that Samanya Chaitanyam, if we identify with Samanya Chaitanyam, you will never be able to experience pleasure or pain. Whereas if you identify yourself with the Vishesha Chaitanya, the pain and pleasure you are always experiencing. So now the Gnani or the spiritual seekers that we are all, the task for us is to identify ourselves with the Samanya Chaitanya and not the Vishesha Chaitanya. So this shift from the reflected consciousness to the original consciousness will lead to the liberation. So with this and the last set of verses, there are 3 more verses where the sadhanas, the essential qualifications for a spiritual seeker has been told by Lord Yama. The important one being the Tivra Jignasu or Tivra Mumukshu, having that desire for the self-knowledge, that being the primary sadhana. The secondary sadhanas will be Pravachanam, Medha and Shravanam. Pravachanam is to learn to chant Vedas, Medha is to memorize them with understanding, Shravanam is to repeatedly listening from a competent guru. And then few more sadhanas, the person has to be morally strong, he should not be a duscharita, an immoral person who will have a control over his sense organs, the nigraha. And the most important one is Vyavasatmika Buddhi, which is the focused mind. We call in Tattvabodha this as Chitta Samadhana. So, with this, the concluding verse, again Lord Yama goes back to the Atma Swarupam. Having listed out this qualification, he goes back to the Atma Swarupam where he says Atma is even beyond the time, space and creation. It is Desha, Kala, Srishti, Sthiti and Layakaranam. The creation which arose from the Atma, swallowed by Atma, and the time and space is even beyond the Atma. So, now here we come to the concluding slide of Valli 2. Now, the center being the choice. We have that free will to choose. A person with the essential qualification, Tivra Jignasu or Tivra Mumukshu being the primary one, with all the secondary qualifications of having Pravachanam, Medha, Shravanam, morality, the self-control, focused mind, with the free will of choosing between the preyas and Shreya Margaha. Preya Margaha, which is the path of action, Shreya Margaha, path of knowledge, one which is attractive and which is desired, but then this has to be preferred and which is good. The Shreya is good. So, and through the wonder guru, the guru who is able to communicate something which is uncommunicable, and we should be as sincere as Nachiketas, to receive that teaching from a guru. Now, what is Guru trying to tell us here? Not to see the experience of the Brahman, but to identify with the Brahman. And of course, with the help of Upasana, with the help of Om Upasana, which is a Pratika Alambana, using Sakama and Nishkama meditation techniques. And then, through, should we stop here? Is this enough? No, it is not enough. We have always learned it's not Upasana, it is Nididhyasana of the Atma teaching, which is important. What is Atma? Which is an all-pervading, all-illuminating consciousness, which is not subject to any modification, which is an Akarta and Abhokta, and to identify ourselves as Atma, Samanya Chaitanya, and Vishesha Chaitanya only brings glory to the body-mind complex. That shift is very much important. Of what? Of that Atma which is beyond time, space and creation.